The following podcast is a conversation between me and the Malaysian comedian Rakib regarding freedom of speech, its importance, and should there be things that you should or shouldn't joke about. So please enjoy the podcast.
The pretext of all of this was, well, you can't say certain things because they're jokes. Even though they're jokes,
You're just not allowed to because they're sacred or they're...
we're talking about religion and you're talking about race and you're doing this in a very critical kind of way, but you're also talking about your own personal experiences. And I think that's kind of why it's so unfair, because if you're talking about your own personal experiences, you should be able to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
If you're just lambasting other people, then obviously people are going to get offended. But I feel like if you're just talking about yourself, and your own experiences and your own, traumas over ethnic and religious friction in your own country,
then you kind of should be allowed to say whatever the hell you want to. You ought to be. Yeah.
You ought to be, because here's the thing. You're not saying anything that people don't already know. Like when Rizal Van Giesel talked about his religious teacher saying that all of his non-Muslims will go to hell. That's just the thing that happens. And a lot of people on Twitter were like, yeah.
They do say that, yeah.
But they don't like you saying it out loud. They will say this phrase that you're exposing people's flaws. That's the fault, right?
Yeah.
But you're never going to improve if people don't speak the truth.
No.
So in that sense, I think, you need to have some freedom of speech. You don't have to like what people say, and you should speak out if you don't like what people say, but you can't. But unless they're so inflammatory and so hateful that, they're essentially encouraging people to do acts of violence on behalf of something terrible like race or religion, then you should be allowed to say what you feel, I think.
The thing that kind of gets me about the freedom of speech, specifically in terms of jokes, is the fact that, I do at times think, okay, should it be actually allowed to be laughed at, a certain subjects be made made fun of,
right.
I'm having brain farts, because then it's not because you shouldn't talk about it, it's because sometimes something are held sacred, and maybe having that kind of a strict thing regarding you're not allowed to joke about something sacred is actually comes from a point of strength in a society. Granted, I'm not talking about the case that happened here in KL,
right.
And Rizal, and joking that he did or the event that what was there? The couple who took the lady who took off her clothes. She was wearing a hijab, and then she took off her hijab, and underneath there was party clothes and a comedy stage.
Yeah.
I'm not specifically talking about that, but as in general, this is my mythological part, this is my psychological part, because I was looking at Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, what they really implemented. And you were not really allowed to make joke about Lee Kuan Yew as a prime minister.
Right.
And at first you were like, well, what the fuck?
Right.
Well, you should be able to, you want to make fun of the big guy.
Right.
But at the same time, there's an idea that comes in, and his idea was very much the same, is that because he wasn't doing it out of ego, he was doing it out of the fact that you should making jokes of something would diminish it and would make something small.
Right.
It's one of the easiest way to explain to people, because if you make them laugh at something that they shouldn't, it suddenly goes from an elephant to a mouse.
Right.
It's such a very interesting effect there is with making laughter, making a point through laughter.
Right.
But at the same time, I understand his position was I'm the leader of the nation, and I have a duty, and he believed it was a sacred duty. to make Singapore one of the best countries to live in, and one of the powers in the world, a first world country, a land that doesn't have anything. So therefore, he said, no joking about me, because I have to have that mythology, in a sense, around me, have that kind of a charisma or something around me. Otherwise, people will not take me as serious as they should.
Well, to me, that sounds like a very pathetic excuse, because you're already the leader of a country. You have the authorities at your beck and call.
Yeah.
You have no opposition, and
no.
Don't tell me that you have opposition.
He doesn't. He never really had. If there was an opposition, he fucking got rid of them. But
and even if you do, if they speak out on something they think is the truth, they get sued for libel until they go bankrupt.
Very interesting tactic.
Very interesting tactic.
Most humane tactic I've seen.
Well, it depends. In a country that's hyper-capitalistic, losing all your money is basically a death sentence. So make of that what you will. I just don't see any difference between him and any other dictator, other than the fact that he was good at his job.
Insanely good at his job.
That's the only difference, right? And at that point, most people in a country like that are fine with not having any free speech if they can be fed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I can't concede the idea of people don't care about your first world issues if you can't get fed at the end of the day. But you're not like that anymore.
No.
At least not in Singapore.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like if you're a leader who can't tolerate being made fun of, it really says something about you as a human being and the kind of leader that you are. At some point, I don't care that you're efficient, because I know a person that is this thin-skinned is emotionally volatile and will lash out at somebody that they know they can't control. And that can become very dangerous. In my personal opinion, Singapore just got lucky.
With Lee Kuan Yew?
Yeah.
1,000%.
That's the thing. But he can still sue you into the poorhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they would do. But the thing is continuing on with this, is that, well, my take on Lee Kuan Yew kind of differs. Yeah. I kind of saw it as what he meant by the symbol that he has.
Right.
And not being taken seriously or not being diminished as the position, because again, it goes from an elephant to a mouse. It's something that's not acceptable. And again, there's like another country, there was this book called Gates of Fire, which is about the battle between the Persians and the Greeks.
Right.
It's a fictional take on it, but a lot of it are based on the actual event.
Right.
Fictional take as in like it takes you as the person inside the story.
Right.
But also it refers to a very interesting group within Greece who were actually a secret, kind of like a secret police of the time. And nobody knew who they were, nobody would see them coming, but they just knew these people existed. What their job was, if anybody made fun of the idea of Spartan, if anybody made fun of Greece, or the Greek ideology, and what Greece is about, slowly, one night, they just disappear. That group would go, and then done.
Sure.
That was their whole functionality.
Right.
It's to keep that idea as strong as possible, and also hold it at a more higher state, because maybe making fun of something, it would actually bring it down too much at times. It could be actually make things not be taken as seriously as they should be. Yeah, I'm walking my take is, as I said, is like kind of like in a very I would even say alchemical way of looking at it, because I'm seeing like position of a prime minister, position of a king are the closest things to being position of a god. And being made fun of that is that psychologically, in the Jungian psychology, is that it's like you take that great archetype and you diminish it. And when it's diminished, when it shouldn't be diminished, it will create some sort of a weakness. So that's what I'm looking at. It's like some ideas, some things, yes, shouldn't be made fun of. It's not that I'm saying you shouldn't, because hey, I'm the first person who would be making fun of something. I would do it. but it has started a question in my head reading about the effects of these archetypes, the effects of these titles, and the joke about it, what effect the joke itself has on the matter itself. And sometimes like, should you actually do it or not?
Well, I've got several interesting takes on this. Number one is the idea that comedy can diminish authority, right?
Like in a snap.
Right. A lot of people like to think that these comedians want to believe that we're speaking truth to power when we're doing comedy. But Jon Stewart went on The Daily Show, right, and essentially said, we have not changed anything. You think we're affecting change? We have not done a single goddamn thing to actually change things for the better, right? You could argue that a protest song is memorable, and you can say that, but making jokes about authority, unfortunately, doesn't really change authority. All it does is relieve pressure that people have for things that they already know about the power structures that they're already in. And sometimes humor can be a really good camouflage for a leader who's dangerous.
Yeah.
George W. Bush is a perfect example of this. Because the whole time we thought he was an idiot, and anytime he screwed up, he was like, I'm just a little goofy guy. You know?
Yeah, that's what he was.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you can't take a character like that seriously, you neglect the fact that he is bombing the Middle East to the ground.
Yeah.
And that's when it turns on you instead. You think you're speaking truth to power, but really what you're doing is sometimes in some places you're just camouflaging people that are really bad.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can make fun of people and they'll take it on the chin, and it doesn't change the fact if they're good or bad. Right? If you got a good leader, you got a good leader. If you got a bad leader, you got a bad leader. Making fun of them, if they're a good leader,
they'll take it and just move on with it.
They might take it, they move on. They might sue you into the poorhouse like Lee Kuan Yew, but at the end of the day, they'll be a good leader.
Yeah.
Bad leaders don't go away just because you make fun of them. It hurts their feelings.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that they can send a death squad after your family. That's what I learned watching Hassan Minhaj, The King's Jester, recently.
Oh, I don't know that.
So that's a Netflix special by Hassan Minhaj recently called The King's Jester. And he talks about, he can't stop making fun of authority figures because the amount of praise that he gets from doing it is so addictive that it's become part of his identity.
Oh, that says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it becomes so addictive that he keeps pushing the boundary of what he can do, to the point of he's antagonizing Saudi Arabia right at their embassy.
Really?
Yes. And he's lying to his wife that he's not doing it.
Oh.
And this goes on and on. And then what happens is that first it's Saudi Arabia, then it's the CCP. Next thing you know, it's just one dictatorship after another. Bolsonaro. It's nonstop, right? And it's not just speaking to truth to power. If you're an attention-starved person like Hassan, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your own ego. And one day, he walks his baby in a pram. He opens up a letter because he wants the feedback. He's addicted to the attention. Yeah. But when he rips the letter open, white powder spills up.
Anthrax.
And it spills all over his baby. Right? And now they're freaking out. He sends the kid to a hospital. It was fake, but the doctor was like, Mr. Minhaj, how did you get this? Because you're lucky this is fake, but this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. Who have you been antagonizing? And at that point, Hassan Minhaj is like, everyone? I've been antagonizing everyone.
That really happened?
That in his special, he said it really happened.
Shit. Yeah.
You should watch it if you like both comedy and politics. And
is he the Egyptian guy?
No, he is
I have no idea who he is.
He's the Indian Muslim dude who's one of the correspondents for The Daily Show until he created the Patriot Act.
Oh, all right.
And in the special, he says he called it the Patriot Act because when he was a kid, his mosque got infiltrated by Fed, that everybody was like, it's not a Fed, he's just a guy who wants to convert. And then the next thing you know, he's being pushed down on a cop car with handcuffs, right, under the Patriot Act. Right? It wasn't even a Fed, it was a known criminal they were using as an informant. Right? So he called his show the Patriot Act to spite the authorities who, treated him like a terrorist, even though he was just a kid.
That's interesting.
So we talk about comedy as speaking truth to power, but sometimes, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, it's when you say it actually hurts the person's feeling and he will fuck you up, and that's very much of a truth to it. It's like in case of Trump,
right?
He would not take any sort of, like, even in his roast. Jeff Ross was saying his first 30 minutes of roast, people were uncomfortable.
Right.
Because whenever they made jokes of him, granted, it was one of the lightest roasts ever.
Right.
We could tell they were, even though people were making jokes of him, and this was before he was president, they were still sucking up to him because he was a rich guy.
Sure, he had a lot of power.
He still had a lot of power. He still had enough money. Even if he's not a billionaire, he still has he's a millionaire at least. And he said the first 30 minutes, whenever people made joke of him, he didn't laugh at one joke. He would just sit straight.
He'll just chuckle a little bit.
Not even chuckle. Apparently he wasn't even giving them that. And until Jeff Ross walked up to him in the commercial break and said, "Hey man, you need to
loosen up a bit."
Yeah, because you're not making. You need to just take it.
Yeah,
and you need to give it back. And it's I like him. I like Jeff. Well, what's that?
Oh, we're getting haunted. Don't worry about it. The lights flickering.
The lights are flickering.
It's a house full of spirit masks. What you expect?
Yeah. Yeah, your second floor, man, is the Eyes Wide Shut party of masks. It's fucking hell, dude.
Yeah, no.
Fuck. But Jeff Ross is he said, even when he did not go to his White House Correspondents' Dinner, right after you become president, apparently there's a dinner, a comedian comes and makes fun of you, blah blah blah, everybody eats, haha, blah blah, that's it. That was the first time nobody had that. Jeff Ross was trying to convince him, dude, this is unhealthy for you, you should go out there and take it. And to some degree, I think even Trump was agreeing, because he's most people to suck up to him. He could tell this guy's actually, but he still didn't go through with it because his ego wasn't letting him.
Right.
The fact that it's but then it goes to that whole thing is that maybe some things are you say okay, Lee Kuan Yew, if you made fun of him, he will sue you, blah blah blah. Not make fun of him, but if you're opposition to him, but you're not allowed to make a joke of him. Or if there's a particular ideology, be it religious, be it patriotic. In the case of the Gates of Fire is the idea of Greece. In case of some Middle Eastern countries is Islam, for example. Or in case of what do they call a very famous Afghan tribe that they have an honor code, major honor codes, and you're not allowed to. The honor code is if you're in need, I have to help you regardless of my life. And if somebody from the tribe actually make fun of it, they were caned.
Right.
It's because and they take that honor code
seriously.
Seriously, and you're wow, all right. So, but that's the difference. Is there are some assholes like Trump who you should be able to say whatever the fuck you like. But then there's certain things that if they're working with the system should not be diminished. If it's still benefiting the people in some sense. But that's just my take on it. Is if an idea is serving something, serving something good to a certain degree, even if it's not perfectly, but just good enough that is actually serving and trying to create something, maybe it shouldn't be diminished in terms of maybe it shouldn't be made fun of or being joked about. Actually should be praised and tried to be collaborated with.
I mean, you have people who do that. They're called the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, they're seen as very, very ineffectual because all they do is keep giving concessions to Republicans. And at the end of the day, they just don't really. Because at their core, they're basically conservatives who aren't.
Who like to take pictures with black babies.
Yeah,
that's the only difference.
That's pretty much the only difference.
Yeah.
My main concern with comedy is that ultimately it's amoral, right? Not immoral, but rather it has no moral standing, you know? Mm-hmm. You have to make a distinction between the comedian and the comedy, right? Mm-hmm. Because as a comedian, the comedy that you make is going to be a reflection of you. Mm-hmm. And so if you have very, very strong beliefs, it's going to reflect in your comedy.
Yeah.
But you can take the same tools and use them in a different way. There is a YouTuber called CJDX, and he did a very long YouTube essay on Bo Burnham. Mm. And Bo
the singer?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Bo Burnham.
CEO entrepreneur. Yeah, that guy.
He's lampooning Jeffrey Bezos there, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Jeffrey Bezos hasn't lost a single dime from getting lampooned by Bo Burnham. And Bo Burnham knows this. Bo Burnham, when he was much younger, went on to some talk show and talked about how he's very concerned about how the young people are online because they have been trying to, use the online space as a means with which to develop both the personality and to sell it.
Yeah.
But the other people who are doing that now are politicians, because when you think about how Donald Trump got into power,
he made fun of everybody.
He kind of started out as a meme. Donald Trump started out as a running gag because
Simpsons predicted it for this.
Right. Because it just seemed like such a hilarious thing to joke about. No one would take it seriously. You would, and because of that, he won.
Yeah.
Because there's something about the postmodern irony of the state of the world where if you joke about it hard enough, it can eventually come true. Most comedians want to believe that for the better when they're, taking the piss out of an authority figure that they believe should be toppled. But you forget that if you believe that that's true, it can also be co-opted by the other side and then be used to camouflage dangerous people's true intentions until they get into power. And it's the same tactic that they use, that is the same tactic that George W. Bush stumbled upon.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's so silly, he couldn't possibly be dangerous.
Yeah.
And the same was true with Donald Trump. He's so silly, he couldn't possibly be dangerous.
The case of Trump, the thing that happened was, and I firmly believe this, is that when he came to power, when he actually started running, he was joking, and not joking, much more like snapping back at anyone who would snap at him in a pretty way. Mm-hmm. And he was very unapologetic, which was a bit of a fresh air for people like in America. In the case of him coming to power, joking actually about him made him the president.
Yeah.
But the problem was, I think it came from resentment more.
Right.
Rather than it being like in a fun manner.
Yeah,
it was more like Stephen Colbert. Who's that African dude who has an afro now?
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah.
Right.
Jon Stewart, last days of him, in his last days. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon at the end of the run. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, and the other, whatever hell his name is that all the late nights, basically. I was telling my friend, I said, they are everything that this guy is doing. He's saying the things that people want to hear.
Yeah.
What is it? I'll bring down taxes. I'll bring the jobs take the jobs away from the Mexicans and give it to the Americans. And I'll make everything made in America and I'll stop giving money away. Everybody find that cool. I'll have no more jobs to China. We're going to build stuff here.
Yeah.
And people are like, that sounds awesome. Now, imagine I'm a truck driver. Every night I'll go home, tired as fuck.
Yeah.
And I turn on the TV, and I have in this case, the comedian turned into a schmuck to a normal human, to somebody who is minimum wage,
Yeah.
just trying to get by. That's when you're no longer the person, you're no longer a comedian, bringer of joy and laughter and sarcasm to relieve your frustration.
Yeah.
You became the source of frustration for
Right.
people. Because now I'm a truck driver, tired as fuck. I could have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to take the goods from one state to another again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at you wearing a suit and tie, looking at me, going like, look what Trump did again. Oh, look at like anything that Trump one time stumbled from walking down the stairs just once. It became a headline for them all day, every day. He tweeted something with a misspelled something. People were like giving him shit and all that. It's now looking at them and they're like telling me that they know better than I do and that Hillary is the way to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the voting booth. Maybe even before that, I thought about voting to Hillary. And I go there and like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to vote Trump.
Well, yeah, because that's what I'm saying. Comedy is amoral, right?
Yeah.
It really depends on your intention of what you're trying to say, your political intentions or whatever, or your grievances, your anxieties or whatever. And if you can do that, then you'll reach everyone. Or you can use it as a political tool, but if you do it carelessly, you can end up making the person look too relatable.
Yeah.
Right? Because at some point, you look at Trump and you look at the things that people say and make fun of him. Again, he looks too harmless to be dangerous. Right? But at the end of the day, being too harmless to be dangerous will also help with the fact that he is telling me things I want to hear. Which, to be fair, is also another trick in comedy that we use all the time. We do things on the stage where we tell people things that they're too afraid to speak about.
Yeah.
We do this with comedy all the time.
Yeah.
When I was talking to you just a minute ago, and I was talking about comedians will never be as well respected as musicians because nobody has ever fucked to a joke.
Yeah.
Right?
Beautiful bit.
It is. It's not just that it's funny, but it's true.
Relatable. You immediately, like the second you say it, it's like a puzzle piece fit perfectly in a grand scheme of things in my head.
And if you're Jim Bubba from Arkansas who needs to drive for 19 hours a day on meth just so you don't crash the truck, because this is the best job that you can get because the economy won't let me. And, you know, I take pride in the fact that I'm working myself to death, right? Because I'm a man and I have to feed my family. It doesn't matter if it's a glorified used car salesman from New Jersey with a bad wig who's telling me a bunch of lies. I probably know at the back of my head are not even that believable.
Yeah.
I would much rather vote for this dude than for a bunch of other people that look like they're lying all the time.
Hillary Clinton looked like she was lying all the time.
The Supreme Court has this one black judge who I can't remember his name right now, but he was in an episode of... What?
50 Cent.
50 Cent?
You say a black
Judge
judge.
50 Cent.
The only thing... name the first black guy that comes to your head.
For me, it's
Denzel Washington.
Denzel Washington.
That's an intense judge.
No, that one I come to. Now, come on now.
This court ain't got nothing on me.
Denzel Washington's for everyone, people, not just for ladies and gays. Beautiful chocolate, man. No, because I remember this was on an episode of Behind the Bastards, right? This other podcast I listened to, and he talked about how when he was rising up, he wanted to get successful very quickly because he came from an incredibly poor neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he was middle class when he was raised by his granddad, but his granddad was highly conservative, socially anyway, even though his politics was liberal. But he didn't want to do black issues, right? Now, he was a radical leftist in college, but then he became a conservative because he just wanted to be successful, right? He was so tired of I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
I will never, And it's like I think he said he joined the Republican Party because it was slightly more refreshing to be around white people who were openly racist than with Democrats who were racist but with a fuck you smile.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who voted for Trump was like, at least he's honest.
Yes, exactly. Most people were saying the very same thing.
We all know our politicians are scumbags, but at least this one is
telling me what it is.
Is an openly grotesque human being, right?
Yeah. At least I can. The thing about Trump is that I feel like most people could work with him far better than could have worked with a Democrat. For the very same reason.
Yeah.
Is that, hey, look, I'm an asshole and these are my parameters.
Right.
If you can't work with these parameters. With a Democrat, they will not say, "Oh, I'm a good human being who cares for such and such and such."
No. You're a piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit. Your son is in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Getting blown by hookers and smoking meth.
I mean, yes. And then you think about what comedians do, what we do. We go on the stage and we lay it all out there. I have 25 minutes of jokes about me just being fat.
Yeah.
Because you can't ignore the issue, right? My opening line is, let us address the elephant in the room. Me, motherfuckers, I am the elephant in the room. Don't look at me all polite shit like you're trying to pretend like nothing's wrong with me,
Yeah.
I just haven't seen my dick in years. Shut the fuck up. My relationship with my penis is like an alcoholic stepdad. I beat it every now and then, and for Christmas I give it a $5 bill and a card. Fuck you.
Okay. Jesus. But an alcoholic stepdad, that's brilliant.
Yeah. But the thing is, that's pretty refreshing to a lot of people because they're all tense up. And they can all see it, but they can't say it, so you'll say it for them.
And it takes away the awkwardness.
And that's what Trump did. They took away their awkwardness because you just let them say what they want to say.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when... And it's not strictly comedy, but I do believe what Bo Burnham said, that in a way, us comedians, we taught him that.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's dangerous. You have this immense source of power, comedy, right?
Yeah.
Right. It might as well be a character in Sandman, right next to Death, Destiny, and Desire.
The comedian.
There should be a comedian called, and his name is Duh, or whatever, something that rhymes with D. Dick Joke. That's right. One of the endless is called Dick Joke.
Yeah.
Right. Because comedy is this impossibly powerful subversive thing.
Yeah.
Right. It changes one thing to another and you don't expect it. That's the whole point of comedy.
Exactly. It turns an elephant into a mouse.
Right.
One of the best things, it's a pretentious thing, but it stuck with me. It said, there's multiple languages, but everybody laughed the same way.
Exactly.
And I was like,
that's
right? Weird, isn't it?
I told people for this talk once, it's like, the first joke you ever learn is peekaboo.
Yeah.
Because it's a setup and a punchline. You cover your face, you open your face, and the baby laughs. Mm-hmm. It's the first joke that any human being learns, is to be surprised at something you didn't expect. Right? Because, there's uncertainty and maybe a little bit of fear. You can't see Dada's face anymore. Where did Dada's face go? And then there's Dada's face. I feel better again.
The baby.
And it's just... And from the time we are born to the time we die, we're basically the same baby in the crib. It just takes more effort to figure out how to hack that little bit of the human brain that laughs at shit we don't expect, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's a fundamental thing about, being remotely sentient. Like, we appreciate being surprised in pleasant ways. But it doesn't care about you personally.
No.
I learned this the hard way when I was doing comedy. You can't just go up on the stage and expect to be consistent when all you have is the force of your personality and how quirky you are. It can work, but eventually you're going to run out of steam. So now you got to go back and you have to do the graft of actually writing down your shit and practicing it and rehearsing it, and then knowing what it is. And I think the hard truth for me was coming to terms with the fact that comedy is actually a pretty simple mechanical thing. There's a thing that you say and a thing we don't say. You want to, and there's this thing you say and another thing that you say, and the other thing is unexpected, and we're all like, haha, right? Yeah. It's a very simple mechanism.
Yeah.
And if you can't get that, you'll never be funny.
Yeah. If you look at Anthony Jeselnik's new stand-up comedy,
yeah,
his jokes are basically the structure of a joke.
Yeah.
Like the basic structure of a joke.
Yeah.
You see the left turn. It's
yes.
Like he says something and he does a left turn. He says something and he does a left turn. And every time he gets you. Because every time it's better and it's better and better. But it's a very simple mechanic.
It's a very simple
mechanic. As long as you keep the components, change the components to something that makes sense.
Yeah. I was at a bama shop, like a greasy spoon diner sort of situation. And I got there at midnight after I was, looking at a couple of shows, 2 shows happening at the same time. I was going to both. And because of that, there was a whole bunch of people there. Everybody's going to be there. So I went over. I'm like, I'm going to die doing this. It is so late and I'm still getting dinner. Fuck. And I stayed until 3 a.m. And you know why? Because at some point of the meetup, we were just telling each other stupid street jokes.
Yeah.
In Tagalog. So my friend Brian, he's going through a Twitter of like best Pinoy jokes, and the other 2 Filipinos are translating. But what's really enjoyable is watching them burst out laughing and then translate it for us. And then now we're bursting out laughing. And this goes on for 2 hours, man. 2 hours. Like a gaggle of complete brain dead idiots. We're just laughing at the dumbest jokes. Like, I'll give you one, right?
Sure.
I got some bad. The doctor says to the patient, "I got some bad news. You only have. You're gonna die in 5." Mm-hmm. I said, 5? 5 what? 4, 3, 2. It's such a stupid joke.
The cocksucker. We can calm down. That's such a brilliant joke.
The one I found was, there's another one of like 2 criminals, right? Criminal 1 is going, "Hey, are you sure the target is supposed to be here? The one we're supposed to off, right? Are you sure he's going to be here?"
Yeah.
And the other criminal is like, "Yeah, he's supposed to be here, but it's been a while since he showed up. I hope nothing bad has happened to him."
Yeah, I heard that with the Hitler.
Right, yeah.
The Jews were going to kill the Hitler. Yeah. And it's like 5:30, like, he's not here. I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay.
I hope he's okay. Oh. so stupid, right? Yeah. And that's the thing about comedy. The structure is very simple.
Yeah.
So it, as its own force, doesn't have any obligation to care about your politics. Sometimes you think you've got it on your side, and you're making jokes about Trump all day long. Oh, his hands are very small. He stumbled through, he stumbled down the stairs. But eventually, he's doing so much crazy shit that the guys trying to make fun of him are exhausted and they can't keep up anymore. Yeah. And you know why? Because Donald Trump was much funnier.
Yeah.
Step by step than the actual comedian was.
Yeah.
You can't keep up with him.
They couldn't keep up with him. And at one point, they were like just making fun of it. They were just like, look what he said today. And right. Just look at it like, if there was no audience laugh, would it be funny?
No.
Because Colbert, like, every day his show was just purely about Trump. He fucking had a cartoon made for him. He was sniffing Tic Tacs, orange Tic Tacs. It's like... But you're not doing anything, are you? Because people were happy with him until the COVID thing hit.
Right.
But then now, if you look at it now, people miss him. People are going to vote for him again in 2024. I'm 100% sure, number one, he will win if he comes back in 2024. Because Biden happened to be the real joke.
Yeah.
Because they're like, $40 billion given to them, and the guy doesn't even remember he's the president.
Well, see, here's the thing about Biden, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
He's sub George W. Bush funny. Right? So he's almost as amusing, but not amusing enough.
Yeah, that's true.
His only shtick is that he's old and that he massages people and likes to sniff their hair. You know, Uncle Biden's being a little creepy again.
Yeah,
up the dosage.
Yeah, his son has his name saved as Pedophile Pete.
Oh, gee.
In his phone. So he calls him Pedo Pete Colin.
Whatever. I mean, look, I don't...
But yeah, he's amusing, likes ice cream, and that's it.
But that's just the thing, though, isn't it? There's nothing else.
There's zero. Everything there was is gone now with his dementia.
Like, here's the thing. If he was funnier, he'd get more votes. I speak purely as a comedian. If he was funnier, or if he was more balls off the wall, he'd get more votes, right? Yeah. Because here's the thing: all of us comedians like to believe that if you can speak truth to power, the world will get better. But it's not true.
Yeah.
If you ask me personally, I was listening to Bill Burr recently, right, talking about politics, and he was like, at the end of this, I think it was a tweet or like a comment or whatever. I can't remember. Or it might have been his podcast. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, he talked about how, when you think about it, the nicest, most, benevolent president that America ever had was Jimmy Carter. Peanut farmer.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, look, think about this, okay? He's remembered for being sort of ineffectual and weak.
Yeah.
Right. But when he retired, what does he do? He's building houses for the homeless and shit.
Yeah. See, my comment came from as an Iranian standpoint, because we were at the butt end of his policies.
Right.
He was the guy who pulled the pin on ass fucking of Iran in 1979.
I put it to you, was most likely Henry Kissinger, who was like,
Henry Kissinger.
Whisper, whisper, whisper. Yeah. You should fuck up Iran, whisper, whisper. And Jimmy Carter, he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Just a peanut farmer.
Yeah, just a peanut farmer.
Fuck you.
He would. If he was under any control of any other administration, he would be harmless.
Yeah.
Right? He'd just be taking care of America, not caring about geopolitics. But unfortunately, it's the Cold War, and the White House is full of hawks. Yeah. So what are you gonna do? All right. But I look at Jimmy Carter, and I'm like, you're just a nice man. You had no business being the president, right? But
fair point.
But it's like, but you look at a leader like that, and you think to yourself, we kind of hate him because he let a bunch of terrible things happen geopolitically. Yeah. And domestically in America, he was just like a nothing burger, right? And I think about...
There's nothing like about his domestic policies that I remember. Everything about him is about what he did to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and even then, it's like it didn't stop when he left.
No, it just carried on. Yeah, like it was a start. He's the one. Yeah, and the rest were 2, 3, 4. Just kept going after that.
That's just the thing, right? That's the problem. You can make jokes about Jimmy Carter all you want, but it didn't stop the actual system from moving on.
No,
and I think that's the problem. Hassan Minhaj can make fun of MBS all he wants. Yeah, but Saudi Arabia is still going to keep marching on. He can make fun of Modi all he wants, but Modi is still going to keep marching on. CCP is going to keep marching on. It doesn't make a difference.
No.
The only job we have is to make other people feel better about shit we already know.
Just make the pain a little bit easier.
Exactly. I have told my friends when I started this that comedy's power is the ability to transmute pain into laughter.
Yeah.
Right? But I specifically mean laughter, not joy, not happiness, just laughter. Because it is a Band-Aid on cancer. I know this. I know this. I know that at the end of the day, I might not be able to achieve anything. Other than maybe after I'm dead, people will look back at my legacy and go, he did kind of say, I told you so. Right?
We're the violin players on the Titanic as it is going down.
Pretty much.
Just trying to make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. But that's kind of how you should approach comedy. Don't think about yourself or like the greater good or whatever. Look at your audience. Are they in pain? Mm-hmm. Well, if they're in pain, you probably should do something about it because they pay you a lot of money, motherfucker. They pay you money to get... That's money that they got from a 9-to-5 job, working for a shitty boss, working through traffic, putting up with spoiled kids, and they paid good money to come to a shopping mall in the middle of Kuala Lumpur, right?
To listen to you.
To listen to me talk about fat jokes.
So they can enjoy it.
Just so they can enjoy 2 hours of just forgetting the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking it, isn't it?
And for me, we talked about freedom of speech before, and I honestly feel like denying people freedom of speech is particularly cruel because you deprive them even of that.
Yeah.
Like, nothing we can say as ordinary people are going to change the fact that King shit of fuck mountain is still going to be there, fucking up our lives, you know?
Yeah.
At least let us say what we want. Because that's all we're asking for. Because we're doing it in the privacy of our own homes anyway. We are paying money to an unemployed person to tell us shit we already know.
Possibly highly damaged unemployed person.
A very, very ruined man.
With a possible addiction.
Yes, definitely with an addiction. Fuck.
Yeah.
You know, we've all seen Robbie Williams. Come on now.
Yeah.
Oh man. And you don't even let us have that. It's okay. When I was at the shows, couple of shows, right? As that was happening, there was a drag show at Rex KL.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love Rex KL, by the way.
Yeah, Rex KL is lovely.
It's one venue that I look at nowadays every weekend.
Yeah.
For some reason, cool stuff are happening there. And the venue is pretty good.
Well, you're gonna hate.
Well,
you're gonna hate what I'm gonna tell you next.
What the fuck happened?
Because Rex KL got raided just yesterday.
For the drag show.
Yeah.
By the way, when you said the drag show, I was like, KL?
Yeah.
Because I know there was here, but like
ask all of the queer people here, all the queer folk here. Everybody talks about Pot Pong. Everybody talks about Bangkok drag shows being good, right? Yeah. Because they're allowed. And there's lots of them.
Yeah.
But no, KL has got really good drag shows, great performance value, and just amazing performers, right?
Yeah.
But you can't talk about it, and you won't hear about it because every time it happens, it gets raided. And you know why? One of the goths in the scene told me that the authorities have figured out that Halloween is peak season for drag shows.
Peak season.
Yeah, it's peak season.
When they come out of that.
Yes, spooky lady boys. Well, do it, whatever. And because of that, it's also a way to persecute transgender people because that's where they'll be, right?
Do they get prosecuted in Malaysia?
They won't get prosecuted under secular law, but then the religious authorities will pull them in a van and then you don't see them again for a couple of days.
Shit.
Unless you got a lawyer that bails them out.
And if they're not Muslim, also, do they still?
No, specific. Well, if they're not Muslim, they just let you off, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But if you're Muslim, you're fucked.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that's for
right.
sure. They don't take it that well.
At the very least, they throw you. They throw a giant heaping fine at you, right? Mm-hmm. And in this economy, you're fucked. You're fucked, right? And if you consider speech to involve more than just the shit that you say, but the shit that you do, like dance and or make it video games or whatever.
Yeah.
The censorship isn't just about I'm a free speech, I'm a whatever. It's about the ability to express yourself, and you can't even get that.
Yeah. No, you can't.
And even if it's not politics, it's economics. Like during the pandemic, the performing arts centers in Penang didn't survive. Penang Pack didn't survive.
No, they're all fucked.
And now if you try to use
KL Pack, they're fucked. They're still holed up now.
Right.
For fuck's sake.
And because, it's the pandemic, live shows can't really survive. But it really demonstrates the fact that, if one system doesn't collapse, another one doesn't. But they're both joined at the hip. All the fat cats in the economic side and all the politicians in the political side, they know each other. They're friends with each other. They probably fuck each other.
Most probably.
So, You know, they'll double team you. You know, they will make you do ass to ass.
Right, ass to ass.
You know, because either free speech is dangerous or free speech is not profitable, or they will make it unprofitable.
Which is, they've succeeded in.
Yeah.
They closed. I mean, closing down crack house for me was like one of the biggest tragedies.
We're still suffering from it.
I'm glad, because in some, not glad, but I'm just saying it's like, ever since it's been closed, I'm seeing more comedy shows pop up.
Right.
Like scattered, but still.
Right.
So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's the OG. It's the Mecca. The little space that people came to talk about, do shit jokes and dick jokes and just be cool for a couple of minutes and then fuck off.
Crack house died for your comedy sins.
Yeah.
You know.
Very much.
It's the thing about the crack house it's funny because it's not just Malaysians.
No.
It's not just Malaysians. Because a visiting comic from three visiting comics from Manila. Now, I was driving them around, our friends were driving them around, and I'm like, can we see the crack house? And it's like, it's closed. Like, yeah, but we just
want to see it.
We just want to see it and take some pictures so that we can remember it. And it was like visiting a grave.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. It was like going to a gravesite.
You know, I'm surprised you didn't put down, well, not flowers because we're comedians, maybe a dildo, you know?
A dildo. A couple used condoms.
Yeah.
Nick can supply.
You know, something just hilarious. But it was just, everybody mourns when they come to KL and they hear about the crack house. It's just, can we see it?
That was my fun weekend activity. Was always check on what's crack house doing.
Yeah, what's happening?
Who's showing? Who's coming? Who's having a show right now?
That used to happen all the time in the good old days. They'll be like, here's the money for the ticket. Who's showing tonight? Didn't even ask.
Yeah.
Even ask who's on. They pay the money first and then they ask. And that's just the thing about free speech and comedy. Sometimes it's not about the politics. It's not about, you know, it's simply about, do you have a thing that you need to get off your chest?
Yeah.
Right?
It's about exercising your shadow.
Yeah.
Which is
shadow got real fat.
Yeah.
Over the pandemic, oh, jeez.
Oh, my shadow was like,
yeah, I know. It just started getting like, it just enveloped everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And Lord knows we tried the Zoom show.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was not great.
It was sad. I was like, oh,
it was sad. The only comedian who made it work was
Dane Cook.
No, Dalisa Chaponda. He's a Malawian.
Okay.
And his hack was basically to do the Zoom comedy like it was YouTube. No pauses for the applause.
All right.
Just one after another. Almost as if he was doing his own jump cuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That worked.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So it doesn't give you any time to process. And that rapid comedy is exactly what you need when you have a screen.
Judging by the way, to wrap this segment up, judging by the way everything is unfolding, and my concept about maybe some things should be held sacred and not be laughed at, and some things were supposed to be laughed at, laugh as much as you can and fuck them up as much as you can in your own mind. This decade, and possibly the decade following, it seems to be getting worse because now the freedom of speech has kind of morphed into, it's kind of gone away in a sense. It has come to the policing, the social media, and the Big Brother kind of a shit. That you can be reported for what you said somewhere, something, posted something somewhere, and lose your job over it. And it's getting bad now because now it's like no longer about the freedom of speech. It's more about make sure you don't hurt your feelings and somebody's feelings by misgendering them for like even accidentally, and make sure the jokes that you do. Have you heard Christian jokes?
I try not to. I mean, some of them are not bad, but it's
these
like
Christian cults come and sit around and like
but it's
say,
like,
let's do a joke that is actually like polite.
yeah,
And polite jokes can be fun, but like let's do a joke that's not meant to be hurtful to any ethnicity.
right.
And does your jokes follow these guidelines? And you're like, well, you're killing comedy now, because it's like Bill Burr's comedy, for example, for me is like kind of has like he became very successful. Granted, he earned it, but I feel like at times I'm looking at him like I think he's much more cautious now regarding what he says. He will not go to Dave Chappelle.
No,
he will not go to Louis C.K. anymore. Louis C.K. only goes to Louis C.K. now. Dave Chappelle does a Dave Chappelle now. Bill Burr doesn't do what Bill Burr did 10 years ago, which is that much more of a cutthroat, in-your-face, bare knuckle kind of a thing. He's much more careful because now it's like the free speech is kind of gone to like, yeah, you can say whatever you like, but as long as you listen to what I say and listen to the guidelines. Well, it's like that's what it's turning into, and it's going to become worse.
You're gonna have to make a distinction between. You're gonna have to make a distinction between political correctness for the sake of political correctness, for the sake of guarding your bottom line, and being considerate for people in a way that doesn't compromise your comedy, because there's a way to do it. The difference is that your average old head comedian who's done this for a very long time, they don't have time to learn from like a transgender comedian.
Yeah.
Like, what are your insecurities?
Yeah.
Right? What I feel like Dave Chappelle would have both made fun of transgender people and won them over if he had just gotten like more like lady boy writers. I don't know what else to tell you.
No, I don't think that would be the case.
No.
I think it's the whole climate itself is that, especially the social media aspect of it, is that 90% of the people who are angry are on social media, maybe 95 of them.
I mean, yes, Twitter is a shithole.
But that's just that. It's like, I'm a transgender who's just going to tweet something out, then I'm going to go eat my pizza.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing. You can't give up on that.
Yeah.
Here's my personal opinion, okay?
Yeah.
That there is a way to make the jokes, but only they know them. And you're only going to know those, you're only going to know how to make fun of, like, if you're like a trans woman, but you want to be a sperm donor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a thing that happens. Okay?
Yeah.
That's a thing that, because I want to be a mom, but I got to jizz into a cup, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put on my best makeup and my hair and my new tits, and I'm going to go to the sperm bank and jizz in a cup because I want a baby, I want to be a mom. It is such a ridiculous...
Yeah.
Right. There's this comedian. It's been a long time ago, but it was brought up by this other YouTuber called ContraPoints. Right? ContraPoints is like she's such a revered trans woman YouTuber. Everybody just calls her mommy. Because she's so intelligent and also ridiculously funny. Right? Like her the meme that she created about being a trans woman is that, the feminine penis, don't dismiss the mouthfeel. It's
perfect.
It's perfect. You could make jokes like this, but you have to know people. That's my like, you can't, as a comedian, you can't take things too personally if people go on after you. You are a comedian after all.
Yeah.
You do this to other people. You can't get salty if other people give you shit too. Okay? If you want to make fun of other people, you're gonna really have to know them first.
Yeah.
That's the distinction. Occasionally I make fun of Indian people, right? But that's because I know them. I'm half Indian myself, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
You really have to know them. You really have to know their struggles. I used to make jokes about Indian people essentially being gangsters, right?
Yeah.
Like my Malay side, my Indian side keeps trying to rob me. My Malay side's too lazy to fight back. That's why I'm broke, right? But that was a little lazy because people didn't like, oh, I don't know if I should laugh at this.
Yeah.
Right? But these days, if I want to make jokes about Indian people, it's going to have to be on behalf of Indian people for their cause.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's like, I can get away with going through a roadblock, but if, Prakash follows me, he's gonna die in a lockup or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Because it's true. That's the shit that happens, right?
Yeah.
And it still doesn't work sometimes because I don't know how to nail the tone.
Yeah. People will still be like, what are you...
Are you for this?
Yeah,
are you against this? You haven't really nailed the tone. I tried to make jokes about Nagendran Damalingam, who was a boy, who was a man, but he was mentally challenged, and they hung him for smuggling drugs
in Singapore. Yeah.
In Singapore, and I'm like, I try to make a joke to help people admit to themselves how terrible it is, but I feel like at that point I was just telling people shit they already know, which is why they didn't laugh.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how to nail the tone. And if I don't know how to nail the tone, I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, that's good. Maybe that's one of the issues is that sometimes people would make a joke, but the problem is that you made a joke, but you understand it.
Yeah, but it's not enough to just have good intentions.
Right? Yeah, it's not enough to have good intentions.
Those good intentions really have to show through.
Yeah.
And it can only happen through life experience, right?
Yeah.
I got this friend called Balendra, right? Bal, we call him.
Yeah.
And Bal, if you remember Bal back in the day, he looks like he should be in a gang.
Mm-hmm.
Like he carries himself with an energy that says, I will fuck you up on general principle. Mm-hmm. He could be in shorts and a t-shirt and sandals just casually walking through the neighborhood. And he's still got the demon aura coming off his shoulders like Akuma from Street Fighter 2. It is something. But he's got this he's very intense, and he can get really angry because it's like, he's got very strong principles about what people should be or what they should do. And he was like, man, what? Get into a fight, end up in jail. That's how you become a better comedian. Get life experiences, fuck a man up, drink. Fuck up the police, whatever, Wu-Tang, And he's not wrong. I mean, let's be real. He's probably he was probably a little unhinged, but he's not wrong.
No.
If you're going to be joking about shit, you really should know it.
You should know it.
You should know it.
You should experience it and deliver it well.
Yeah. The thing that people really loved about Anthony Bourdain is that it was undeniable he knew what he was talking about because he was there.
Yes.
You could see he was there. And you could see the love he had for the things that he was in. Other than, getting a really pervy sort of like soap massage in a steam bath, Turkish bath. Yeah. And he's just cursing the whole time. Other than that, I think people really missed him because it was, if you can imagine a guardian angel that's always reminding you how good you are.
Yeah.
That was what Anthony Bourdain was to a lot of people.
Yeah. There was a certain rawness to him.
Yeah.
Not just rawness, but an absolute self-awareness.
Yeah.
That is like, I don't know shit.
Mm.
Not that I'm stupid, but I just don't know shit.
Right.
So teach me, and I'll take it in, and I will take it without bias.
Right.
And then I'll add my own opinion on top of it. Which kind of made people think they were going through this experience through him.
Yeah.
They're like, he's not going there like Anderson Cooper, or it was like the people who put
I'm a silver cyborg. And
hands on my fucking hips, looking like, naughty, no, this is, I cannot believe in the Congo people are fucking each other. Yes, this is wrong. This is me, Anderson Cooper, are against ass fucking.
No, you're gonna sit down at a Vietnamese eating shop.
Yeah.
And then you
like a Vietnamese person.
And you're gonna drink rice wine until your liver fails.
Pretty much.
Because an old man is like, hey, who the fuck do you think you are?
Yeah. I'm gonna be exactly like they are.
Yeah.
Follow the rules of when in Rome, do as Romans do. Right. I'm gonna do exactly that.
A lot of people.
And that's what made him good.
I'm very skeptical about people who want to live this sort of like boho tough guy, Hunter S. Thompson style, you know, as an aesthetic, right?
Yeah, because there are people who have it, and then there are people who don't, but pretend.
Yeah. And you know, look at me, I'm Mr. Adventurous and shit, right? I'm down in the dumps, I'm eating pho by the roadside, look at me. But it's very different from when you're in over your head and you still love the people around you because they're just as human as you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think as comedians, we gotta be like that. We can't be on our pedestal mocking the people, you know, that we think are stupid.
Yeah.
Or we don't understand, because it's like, we don't. We don't really.
No.
And you can't make people laugh at the things that they already know if you don't really understand what they're going through. Yeah. And you'll know it because they won't be laughing when you tell the joke.
Yeah. You know, the while ago you were talking about one of your chef friends being friends with Bourdain, not Bourdain, being friends with the comedians, and then you were talking about how interesting it is that comedians and chefs always tend to get along well together. Yeah,
they do.
That was a point you made. And I thought about that for a little while. And number one thing that came to my head is that you have to be crazy to do that kind of a job.
Right.
Because a chef is in a very tight space with a bunch of other dudes sweating his fucking ass off, trying to cook your fucking beef bourguignon takes about 8 hours and make it in 30 minutes. And has to deal with all these things, and he would create it. And then there's also the reciprocal and the reward system involved in it, which is you create something and it's in front of you. It's either going to work or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And same with a joke. You're going to go on the stage practically alone.
Yeah.
Even when the light hits you and you don't see the crowd, you're fucking alone.
Yeah.
And when you cook, your food is not good.
Yeah.
And when the joke is not good, you are actually alone out there. When you say something and you don't have a response back, you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. You are shitting yourself because the guy who paid a lot of money to watch you perform, whether it's on the stage or on the plate,
you just fucked it up. If the food comes back to the kitchen, you fucked up, didn't you?
And there is no kindness. There is no kindness to your failure. It doesn't matter that you work for hours on the dish or you
what you created was shit and it was noticed that it's shit.
Right?
Yeah, sometimes the customer might be at fault, but 9 times out of 10, mostly it's not.
And in both cases, it's because they drank too much alcohol.
Yeah.
Right? Drunken customers are just not
shit.
Yeah.
Even the comedy audience are like, they're gonna start fucking heckling. They're gonna keep repeating. They're gonna talk back with you.
Yeah.
They're like, that's not gonna be a fun show, is it?
Right now.
But that's the same mentality of a comedian and a chef. The people who are particularly damaged because every chef story I read like chefs that I follow is Marco Pierre White and Anthony Bourdain. Don't really care much about Gordon Ramsay. Fucking bloated, fucking pork crackling. Just he is that they are all fundamentally fucked in the head in some sense,
right?
And you require that drug, which is something that is very bare bone.
Yeah. And
you want to see results right in front of you immediately. Something that you will sweat and bleed over. The stakes are quite high. And then you see what you get at the end of it.
And we're doing it with a medium that is very, very limiting on the onset.
Yeah.
And we're trying to craft something beautiful out of it.
Yeah.
Right? Just like comedy, the mechanism is very simple. You add enough sugar, salt, fat, and acid in something, and you make sure it's umami enough or whatever. And it doesn't matter if it's junk; people are going to eat it.
Yeah.
Right. So the base components are very simple as far as flavor is concerned.
Yeah.
Right. But then you have all of these ingredients that you got to work with. You got to know how to cook them. You got to know how to prep them. You got to know where to buy them so you don't get you don't get cheated.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like my brother, when he did a food fair for the Tackler, he went out to a fish farm in the middle of the ocean to get fish, right? And then he ikajimed it, which is like you slaughter the fish, basically. And he hauled $3,000 worth of sea fish to make a ceviche.
Okay.
To make a ceviche, and to a lightly smoked sashimi dish.
Okay.
Right? And when he got there, all the way, he realized that the venue didn't have chiller space. So now he's got to go to this fellow chef. He's like, hey, yo, bro, can I use some chiller space? And I'm like, yeah, well, you should use some chiller space. I don't know why they didn't give you chiller space, but yeah, you can use ours. It's fine.
Jesus Christ. Man.
So
That's
now
he's
he's just improvising solutions on the fly because the venue is not rising to the occasion.
Yeah.
And he pulls it off, right? It is quite easily a $200 dish.
Jesus.
If you sold it in a restaurant, this would be very expensive. But then he looks onto the other stations, right? They're serving bar food.
Yeah.
Things on skewers, deep fried simple shit. And when he comes back, he is exhausted. He is covered in sweat. He's slopping down, right? Like lighting up. And he's like, why do I do this? Why did I care? Why did I work so hard?
Why do I care?
Why do I care so much?
Because you think you want to give something more.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh jeez.
Sometimes a bar food.
And in my head, I'm like, oh God, we really are related. Fuck.
Yeah.
Because I have done the exact same thing, but on the stage. Like, why did I go so hard to a crowd of 5? You know.
Fucking hell, dude.
It's just that really for me is true comedy. As far as that for me, it's not so much comedy, but the comedian itself, like a real comedian.
Yeah.
Never mind comedy. Comedy is an uncontrollable force. All you're trying to do is pluck a little piece out of it at a time, just so that you can do this. You're borrowing power from this natural phenomena.
Yeah.
That ultimately doesn't care about you, and you know this, so you take the risk.
Yeah. It's ultimate heroin in a sense. That
you might do it to speak truth to power, and you might. Or it might get misused and, Donald Trump gets elected. There's no controlling this.
There is no control.
Your life is chaos. And it is that very specific kind of mental damage that awakens you to the idea that, oh shit, life really is just fucking chaos. And all you can do is just mitigate.
Just laugh at it as much as you can.
You must imagine that Sisyphus is happy.
Yeah. Oh, beautifully said.
Right.
You must imagine.
Albert Camus. You must imagine. Yeah. You must imagine Sisyphus is happy.
The Myth of Sisyphus. Yeah. Brilliant book.
Yeah.
Which is, you must go to it laughing, whatever may come.
Yeah. Because the world doesn't make any sense.
And doesn't give a shit about it.
Doesn't give a shit about you. So you might as well enjoy yourself.
And laugh.
So with regards to free speech, I think that's why it's so important. Because
that's all you got.
It's all you got.
To fucking say what you want to say.
Yeah, whether it's comedy, whether it's drama, music, dancing, or food.
The only thing you have control over is what the fuck you think and say.
And you notice that in governments that are particularly bad or in countries that are failing, free speech disappears around the same time food does.
Oh, yeah, that's creepy. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The food shortages happen around the same time they tell you to shut up.
Yeah. If you take away the food.
Right. Crack House got shut down around the same time the prices for food went up.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it did. Fuck yeah, it did. Right now, everything is like skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. Because that's the real.
That's something that you would be making joke about.
That's the ultimate cruelty. That thing you do with your mouth, you can't put anything in it, and nothing is allowed to come out.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think we can wrap this segment up.
Mm-hmm.
No, enjoy laughing, people.
Because it's all you've got.
Because it's all you got. Whatever may come, go to it laughing.
There you go.